Monster May.
All right, monsters.
All right, this is Monster May, and today we have some monster talk about Alaska. In Alaska, there are a lot of Bigfoot sightings, but specifically in a region of Alaska near Homer, Alaska, they've had a lot of Bigfoot sightings, and they call Bigfoot there Hairyman. And I got a few clips that I saw from Discovery Plus. Discovery Plus has a lot of information and shows on Bigfoot. In particular, there is a show called the Alaskan Triangle. In Alaska, they have their own version of like the Bermuda Triangle, where they have a region in like the center of Alaska where a lot of stuff just kind of goes wrong. People go missing there, planes disappear, there's Bigfoot sightings, a lot of paranormal activity. And I think that these events take place like on the outer rim of the Alaskan Triangle.
Is that where Stan lives?
You know what? I don't know where Stan is right now. He might be.
He's lost in the Alaskan Triangle.
He might be. This first clip kind of sets up the Hairyman and what is going on there. Here we go.
The first stop on the journey to find the Hairyman is the Port of Homer on the Kenai Peninsula, over 200 miles southwest of Anchorage. The town is known as the end of the road. From here, there's just one way to travel, and that's by boat. Now, Homer is the meeting place for a new expedition. If the Hairyman exists, these three adventurers are determined to find him. Expedition leader is seasoned Bigfoot hunter Stephen Major. For Stephen, this search is personal. He's been to the Kenai before.
I actually caught a glimpse of what I believe was the Hairyman dashing between some trees. What I saw was a bipedal, hairy beast. I was dumbfounded because I was in shock because I was not expecting to see that. And I'll tell you what, it was very exciting.
So the three gentlemen are convinced that a Hairyman lives out on this island just off the coast of the port. And the island was initially colonized, I believe, back in the late 1800s. There was big logging going on there, and they experienced some pretty strange things. And throughout the colonization there, when white man showed up, there were a lot of sightings of these hairy creatures, bipedal, what we'd call Bigfoot, roaming around and being kind of belligerent. Now, the natives at the time, the Inuit, they're well aware of this kind of creature in their territory, and they kind of stayed clear. Now, there's a lot of weird stuff that has happened in Alaska related to the paranormal, ranging from the woolly mammoth being hunted up until the 1900s. And so their footprints being found up there, beasts that have been probably considered long dead being found, or at least reported up there by the Inuit. So really strange things. Now
Can the Inuit take a picture then? Are they still there?
The Inuit tribes, they are there. The best that they did is that they provided ivory. They found large intact ivory tusks that they traded with the settlers there. And obviously the white guys were like, hey, where are you getting ivory up here in the north? There's no elephants up here. And they're like, we killed a mastodon. What do you want out of me?
From the narwhals?
But yeah, they found like large intact ivory tusks. So there's a lot of strange stuff going on there. But this next clip speaks to a professor, a university professor who is a cryptozoologist who is investigating the Hairyman.
Like Bigfoot, around here, stories of him are well known and go back generations. Dr. Robert Alley is a cryptozoologist and former professor of the University of Alaska. He's made a study of first-hand accounts.
The Hairyman is a large,
bipedal, completely hair-covered, man-like creature, very similar to Sasquatch or Bigfoot, possibly related, very large, up to maybe even 8 or 9 feet tall, very fast, very territorial, and it could be quite aggressive if provoked. These accounts are really widespread.
And so that's what these people are going out there to explore, is to almost, I would say, provoke this hairy man into responding in a certain way. Like the hairy man apparently is a lot more territorial than some of the other Bigfoot, at least from what I've read. It seems like a lot of time the Bigfoot, they will acknowledge the presence of humans. They will kind of be curious, they'll look at them, and then they might just kind of get out of the area. They're like, we're not messing with these humans. We're going to go over here for a little bit. When the humans leave, we'll come back. The hairy man, on the other hand, seems to put up a bit of a fight. And this next segment here will speak to that.
Perched on the very tip of the Kenai, the abandoned settlement of Port Chatham.
I believe that Port Chatham, Alaska is an area that the hairy man has claimed for his own. I really do believe that is his territory.
It's remote, they wouldn't feel pressured, and it gives them a refuge. And it would be one that they want to protect.
There's good reason to think the hairy man lives around Port Chatham. Back in the early 1900s, there were some terrible events here, and no one's lived in the area ever since. Hugh Newman is an English author who's been researching the story.
In the early 20th century, Alaska was a wild frontier. When the settlers came in, they found this wonderful area, Port Chatham, stunning natural beauty, but also salmon was rich in that area. What's strange about it to me is that it wasn't inhabited by Native Americans. There was no indigenous population in this specific area. So when the settlers came in, it's kind of easy for them just to set up base there. They opened a cannery for fishing. So despite its isolation, it began to grow, and it became a thriving commercial area.
But an early entry in the cannery supervisor's logbook is a telling sign of what was to come.
In 1905, in the local logbook of Port Chatham, something menacing was recorded as being in the woods around the area of the fishing village.
The logbook states that the entire cannery was shut down. The workforce left the site and didn't return until the next season because of something menacing in the forest. Then, a few years later, the situation got even worse.
Around the 1920s through the 1930s, there were people that would go up hunting in the woods and not return. There were people that would go up in the woods and they would find dismembered and mangled bodies that would float down in the lagoon. In conjunction with that, there were sightings of a very large, hairy, man-like beast.
So was it Bigfoot? Was it Sasquatch? Was it some kind of hairy beast that was terrorizing the locals?
Dismembered bodies, arms and legs ripped off and tossed into the river. And these were no bear attacks.
A bear would not be able to dismember and mutilate a body, leaving no claw marks, leaving no fang marks. And that would have sent a very distinct message that hairy man was responsible for this. They wanted to be left alone.
It was reported at that time that the people working at that camp were so apprehensive about being there that they organized and demanded armed security to work out there at that camp. The owners were like, you guys are crazy, but they kept disappearing. Things started to just go awry. There were attacks, and it eventually shut down. And all that equipment is still out there. It just was abandoned, and it kind of rusting away. So fascinating tale. There's a lot of stories on there. If you just look up Alaska Hairyman, you'll see and find that that logging story. And
it sounds like, though, if we want to do some traditional 19th century logging, there's a whole camp up there just ready to go.
yeah, you might have to oil it a little bit and get it and repair it a little bit, but you could probably get it going a little bit. Now, during that expedition, the three guys went out there. They kind of set up camp and looked around. They didn't see much. There was some movement in the woods, but they couldn't tell if it was a bear or not. But there are a lot of reports of people on boats around that area that are traveling fairly close to that island who do report seeing a humanoid creature standing on a cliff or the shoreline, and it freaks them out. It's a pretty big thing. They report that this creature is probably 10 to 12 feet tall. So it's your standard big boy. It's a big one. And fairly aggressive. There are reports of Bigfoot attacks, but a lot of time they seem pretty skittish, like they're not really too interested in interacting with humans. Here's one last clip I have of the Alaskan Sasquatch Hairyman. Here we go.
On a winter's night in 1987, outside Wrangell St. Elias National Park, a motorist experienced the most frightening moment of his life. A vehicle had veered off the road, its lights blinking, and its front door open. The man stopped to help. But there was no driver. Only blood.
Blood can't drive a car.
The man started searching, unaware that there had been 4 recent sightings in this area of an enormous hairy beast. He was about to experience number 5. The creature is a local legend known as Hairyman. Far more massive than Bigfoot. To this day, the missing driver has never been found.
Now, like they said, it's far more massive than your typical Bigfoot, what you see in the Pacific Northwest or even here in Ohio. A lot of times they say they're about 6 to 7 feet tall. In the Pacific Northwest, they can get up to 10 feet tall. They're in Alaska, apparently 12 feet tall. Now, I've been reading through my field guide to Bigfoot and other mysterious primates, and I found an entry that I found to be intriguing concerning Bigfoot. So pay attention here. This was in Pennsylvania in the mid-'70s, and there was a professor out there hanging out in the woods, and the professor knew that he was in the company of some sort of large humanoid or Bigfoot. And he got so familiar with the surroundings, and Bigfoot got so familiar with him that he could just kind of exist out there with them in fairly close proximity. Kind of like a gorilla in the mist kind of situation. And this professor got close enough, and the Bigfoot was so comfortable with him just kind of being in his presence that the professor could describe exactly what this Bigfoot looked like. And so this is what he said. He said it stood about 7 feet tall, was covered in short brown hair, with slightly longer hair on the head, under the arms, and in the pubic area. So he's got a big hairy bush. Its large eyes and expressive mouth sat on the face and was not primitive or animal-like. But the short hair that grew from the eyes down gave the appearance of a mask. The arms did not reach below the knees. It had a powerful body with well-developed legs and shoulder muscles, a flat buttocks, a 13-inch human-like footprint, and a 6-inch long penis. The most notable feature was its protruding stomach, so it's got like a beer gut, and the creature smelled like damp dog. So it smelled like a dirty dog. It's got a 6-inch penis with a flat butt. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Is this the first cryptid sighting we've had where they explicitly describe genitalia?
Yes, I believe so. And that's why I thought it was important to bring it to the show. I'm curious about cryptid penis genitalia and also alien genitalia, because it's not often described. In the when I read some alien sex encounters, some of the abductees, the human abductees, described the pubic region of the aliens as like kind of fiery red. This is the first description I've seen of a Bigfoot penis. It's 6 inches, and the Bigfoot only stands about 7 feet tall. Now, I'm assuming that it's 6 inches flaccid, and not unless the Bigfoot is walking around with an erection, which is possible. We don't. I mean, it's very.
Maybe think about carrying a rubber around with you.
I mean, maybe.
You're suggesting that Bigfoot is a grower, not a shower.
Possibly. Although 6 inches is nothing to sneeze at, people. Come on, let's be realistic here. Maybe
isn't he 12 feet tall?
No, well, not in Pennsylvania. In Pennsylvania,
this is the other one. Okay, sorry.
In Pennsylvania, he's 7 feet tall. Up in Alaska, 10 to 12 feet tall. So he's probably gonna have a much bigger penis, I would imagine. But we don't have any confirmation on that. Those loggers out there didn't report when they were being attacked and mutilated by the Bigfoot. They chose not to look down and do that kind of investigation. They were probably fearing for their lives.
Trying to make a logger joke here. But.
Yeah. There's a lot of places we could go with that. Nothing's coming to mind right now. And to wrap up my my Bigfoot bonanza that I've been on, I've been watching a series called Expedition Bigfoot on Discovery Plus. They're investigating Bigfoot, I believe, in Oregon. They had like a 30,000 acre area to explore, and they got indications that there was some weird stuff going on. That they picked up on some thermal images there. They talked to some people that lived in the area, and they believe that there was a military installation in that area at a certain point. They found what they believe some sort of like structure below the surface, but they couldn't find an entrance. They did what they claimed to be what did appear on like the FLIR and the thermal. Something was walking through the woods, but there was no detail to it. And it moved pretty quick, but they did capture something. So there's a lot of activity around this lake. Like they set up all these cameras. They set up all this surveillance equipment, and they got a lot of activity. And then the next day, they're like, well, Bigfoot moved on, and we're moving the entire production to California. And that's a bit strange. Either they were run out of there, or they decided just to vacation in the redwoods in California. They spent all this time setting up these campsites and understanding the trails. They found what they said was a Bigfoot kill area because there was like a bunch of deer bones and elk bones all in one area. Like they were all dragged to one area and fed upon. They found all these kind of tree structures. They have what they think are structures below the surface, and they just up and leave. Either they were asked to leave by some authority there, they got lazy, or they really did think that Bigfoot just decided to migrate and move on, and there was nothing else to investigate there, which they spent all that time, and there was so much activity going on there. Why just pick up and move? So,
question from the chat on that one. They said, did their phone start glitching out? Was that the problem?
No phone glitching that I could tell. There was none of that Skinwalker Ranch shenanigans going on. All their drones, all their electronics appeared to be working quite normally. And they were getting calls. Like I played clips on a couple previous shows. Like they were whistling. They did 3 whistles, and they got whistles back. They were playing suspected Bigfoot calls through large speakers, and they were getting responses back. And they felt like they were being followed at times. It seemed like there's a lot of activity out there, enough to warrant just camping out there and hanging out for a few more weeks. What's it going to hurt? But no, they decided to go to California during the season. It wasn't like a season closer. Like typically they stay in one spot for the entire season, and that's it. And for whatever, during this season, they decided to kind of pick up right towards the end of the season and move operations and set up a half-ass campsite somewhere in the Redwoods of California. So kind of bizarre, but that's what I got for Monster May.
Monster May.
All right, monsters.
But we will take some phone calls here, 614-388-9109, or Skype in. Our Big Dumb Mouth. You can Skype directly in. You get a better connection, better sound. We can hear you better, and it just sounds better.
Yeah,
so here we go.
Cool Bluetooth headphones. Do not call on those.
No.
Let's go ahead and take the phone calls.
Let's try this phone call right here. Hello?
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 Hi, can you hear me?
We can hear you,
Wow,
yes.
you sound like trash.
No, you're okay. He's just a little excited.
I'm on Skype. I shouldn't sound like trash.
You sound better. Yeah, you just sound like an open air
Farther
microphone.
away from the microphone. Yeah, you're over
Yeah, sorry. It was down my throat.
So who are we talking to and where you calling in from?
My name is Sam. I'm in Chile right now.
Chile, okay. Well, how you doing, Sam?
I'm fine. How are you guys doing?
Pretty well. What's on your mind tonight?
I wanted to talk about Tuetue.
Tuetue?
Tuetue, the Chilean death bird.
Okay, yeah, go for it.
Ooh, Chilean cryptid.
So there's this bird that has the head of a human that visits usually old people, and when they hear this bird sing Tuetue outside of their window, they'll die that night.
Well, that's pretty creepy. Is it like a traditional, like just a large blue jay or a large common bird, or does it look menacing?
I'd assume it's more like an owl.
Okay.
Something like an owl. But they hear it sing Tuetue outside of their window, and apparently, I mean, this comes from like a lot of stories from old people, you know. Apparently, if you throw salt into fire when you see it or when you hear it, then you won't die that night.
Okay.
So it's very strange.
Like a superstition. Up here in the north, we have something called thunderbirds. Have you heard of thunderbirds?
Thunderbirds? I have not heard of thunderbirds.
Take a look at thunderbirds. So thunderbirds are just extremely large, regular birds. There have been reports of them of snatching up small dogs, even children. In the 1970s in Illinois, there were reports of a child actually being snagged up into the air. It was dropped because it was a little too heavy for the thunderbird. But then the Native Americans have reported sightings of thunderbirds, and it's a little bit more common than you might think.
You were talking about the Native American relation to this stuff. This Tuetue also comes from a traditional Chilean story. So what do you think that is?
I just think that the people who have inhabited the lands the longest tend to have a longer history, more knowledge of the land, and they might be a little bit more in tune with nature. And so they might encounter these creatures and weird events a little bit more often, and they take it at face value. They don't seem to dismiss it.
Right.
They interact with it, and so it's more real to them, so they believe it, and that may, in turn, allow them to experience it a little bit more frequently.
I see. You don't think it's like some sort of spirit passed down from generations?
It could be.
Like,
it could be that too. But since you believe in it, it may make it that much more real to you and that culture. Like the Native Americans have a history of at least in the Southwest, the Native American tribes there had a history of trading with large, hairy men, 7 foot to 8 foot tall. They called them a different kind of human tribe, but they're what we'd call Bigfoot. To them, it was just normal to see them.
Right. Do you know about the people of Isla de Fuego or Tierra de Fuego, like Land of the Fire, at the far point of South America, the furthest southern point?
Yeah, I know about it, but why don't you go ahead and talk about it?
They don't like the British.
They don't like the British. But these people were Native Americans living down there, right? They're from the stories that the British have told, that the Spanish have told, they were naked. They just painted their bodies in these weird colors, right? They were apparently huge. Some people have seen huge people, like 7-8 feet tall, of these people. I don't know. I was wondering if you guys knew anything about them.
Well, there are reports from the conquistadors that were surveying the shoreline of South America. They reported seeing large giants on the shores.
Right.
And so that would kind of fall in line with what you're talking about. Where did those giants go? Are they still there, or were they all massacred? They could be living still alive there, just in a cave system, and just choosing not to interact with humans because they probably had very bad experiences.
Yeah. I mean, I'd love to go down there and check it out.
Yeah, I would love firsthand account. There's a lot of people that want to get down to South America because they think that going down there, they could make this one little leap over there to Antarctica and discover if Earth is flat or not.
Right. I mean, if it's hollow or not.
Well, I mean, hollow, flat, round. I'll take anything, whatever you got. Well, hey, thank
you guys.
Hey, thank you, Sam. Really appreciate you calling in.
Yeah, no problem.
Bye.
Blow me up, please.
Sam with an excellent phone call. I really appreciated that.
I was looking up the Toy here. So they say, based on a legend from the Mapuche tribe in Chile, tell the story of a wizard who turns himself into a flying creature.
Oh, awesome. We got to look into that. Caller, you're on the air. Hello?
Hello. Big delay.
Hi.
Hi.
Mike, I would like you to check out the blue and yellow from Ukraine.
Check out in what way?
I saw this video earlier and yesterday, and every vaccine COVID advertisement was of blue and yellow.
Oh,
so
really?
I kind of feel like they're gearing us up for this war.
Like it's some sort of subliminal color messaging to kind of get. Well, I mean, that would kind of fall in line.
Subliminal. Subliminal, yeah.
That would fall in line. I think if you took a poll, the majority of the people that like the vaccine, they'd like it.
Have you seen the video?
No, I haven't, but I can kind of see what you're getting at.
I think you need to go. You need to go on BitChute and you need to type in blue and yellow Ukraine vaccine, and I guarantee you the video will pop up. And it's so fucking weird. Like there's so many advertisements that are blue and yellow for the vaccine.
If I had to take a look at the corporate branding of Pfizer, I'm sure we'd probably see a correlation. I'm sure we'd see a correlation with the number of people that want to get involved in a war in Ukraine and also get involved with the vaccine. There's probably some kind of correlation there. But we've seen this split in the universe for a long time. The split in the universe has been happening since 2014.
When you say correlation, do you mean like get people on the side of like fighting for things?
A correlation, it just means that there is some sort of link, not necessarily a direct link, but the more likely you are to take the vaccine and want it in your life, the more likely you will be for war in the Ukraine.
Absolutely. And Mike, I just want to let you know, like when you see this video, it's going to give you kind of chills because, like, everything is literally blue and yellow.
Listen, I believe you. There's probably something to it, but I guess the skeptical say there's only so many colors out there to use for your corporate brand. You're going to go with some power colors, you know.
But that's what the conspiracy people that hate conspiracies. That's what they say. I showed this video the other day, and the person told me, like, oh, there's so many colors. Like, I mean, when you look at it in the advertisements for the vaccine, it's literally blue and yellow all over.
I'm with you. I will check it out. I will.
I'll have to send you the video because I don't know if anybody sent you in the video in the Discord, but like it's fucking fucked up.
Okay, yeah, I'll check it out.
For you,
oh, Gretchen found it. He's a wizard.
Sponsored by Pfizer.
Yeah, well, it's on BitChute, like because you can't find that shit on YouTube, obviously.
Okay. Yeah, I'll watch it after the show. I'll go to sleep watching.
Guys. Great show, great show. Love you guys.
Thank you.
Brought to you by Pfizer.
We're gonna blow him up right now. Bingo, bongo. Hey, you're on the air. Last caller.
Hey, happy Monster May.
Happy Monster May.
Hello.
How does my voice sound?
You sound pretty
Clear
good.
or no?
You sound good.
Oh, okay. Good. Okay, so I'll make it pretty quick. I just wanted to give a little insight into the Bigfoot situation.
Where are you calling
and
from?
Why I think
and who is
I am
this?
in Oregon.
Oregon. Okay, great. So you have firsthand experience up there. All right.
Well, my firsthand experience is out in Montana. I'm originally from Montana. So, yeah, you there still?
Oh, we're here. Yeah, we're waiting for you.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So I listen to Sasquatch Chronicles a lot, and that's a lot of firsthand accounts and people's eyewitness, accounts and encounters and attacks and all that kind of stuff. And as you go through all of their podcasts, what you start to see is that Bigfoot's not necessarily undiscovered. It's that it's a total government cover-up.
Probably.
And that if you come across bones, if you get a sample of hair, if you get blood, if you hit one on the highway, if you shoot one, the FBI gets involved, the Department of Homeland Security gets involved, the forest rangers get involved. Just every federal agency will rush in on you, snatch up the body, and pretty much tell you to shut your mouth.
And by the way, before you continue, I think I'm leaning towards that, like in the Expedition Bigfoot, their most recent season, that they were run off of their current setup site and sent down to California because they probably were asked to leave.
Oh, for sure. No, that's why I wanted to call in, government, because I had that same thought. So one of the things, like, how there's the men in black that show up and see an alien and they're like, hey, you didn't see an alien. And you're like, oh yeah, I did. And they're like, no, you better shut up. Well, in the Bigfoot world, sometimes if you get hurt by a Bigfoot or, get sent to the hospital or attacked, or you get a hair sample or something like that, these two weird agents come in and they talk to you and they sit you down and tell you that you saw a bear. And so one guy will be dressed, he looks like a big biker guy dressed in plaid, and he'll be like, no, you saw a bear, and you're not supposed to tell anybody about this bear. And then the other guy is kind of like the good cop versus bad cop or whatever.
Big Jim Tucker.
He's kind of like, no, we get it. We understand. It's a scary situation. And then the other guy's like, no, you need to shut your mouth. Well, then after you listen to so many episodes, there's two in particular called Down the Rabbit Hole, where this guy talks about how he rolled up on this camp with just mutilated bodies everywhere. And so he started filming it. Well, he ended up getting gang stalked by the federal government to shut him up. They told his boss that he was trafficking cocaine and that he was a child molester, and he got fired because of it.
Oh, damn.
They locked down his bank account. They tried to chase him out of town. So eventually he just let it go for 6 months because it completely ruined his life,
So why?
Bigfoot's not.
What's the speculation? Why is the government covering up? What's so special about this?
I have a few ideas, but I don't know for sure because nobody does. But I would say that there's like a human-like hominid out there, that just lives right on the outskirts of society. And if people find out that, kids are getting kidnapped out of the woods, full-grown adults are going missing in the woods, people are going to freak out, and there's going to be a lot of backlash. Not just that, but I think that people will try to hunt them. Not just that, but I think that the forestry departments and logging companies are going to lose a lot of money if there's maybe some rare species of humanoid. Maybe they would just put it as like an undiscovered species or, just something that needs to be protected by the government. But that doesn't really change the fact that people are going missing in the woods.
Yeah, I don't know.
Are getting attacked.
Yeah, I don't know if every missing person in the woods is related to Bigfoot. There are some that go missing in very crazy ways, but there could be some, and I think there at this point, if Bigfoot does exist, and I do believe that it does, the government does know about it.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm so far down that rabbit hole that it's like, no, the government knows. They probably have they definitely have specimens. They come in, they take in whatever specimens researchers get, and they tell you to shut your mouth.
Yeah.
And they do it in the scariest fucking possible way that you can imagine. You know, they completely ruin your life over it. That's how much they want to protect whatever it is that's going on with this thing.
Yeah, I know there's a lot of Bigfoot people out there that know way more than I do. I'm just kind of on the periphery. I dabble a little bit here and there. There's a lot of Bigfoot people out there with knowledge. I just can't rattle that stuff off. I spend most of my time on UFOs. So I appreciate you calling in, buddy. You got anything else for us?
Can I tell you one quick thing?
Yeah.
So as far as the missing 411 thing goes, right at the beginning of the COVID pandemic, you know, since I'm from Montana, I was just kind of checking local news out there. There's a guy up in Glacier Park. He's like in his 60s. He's from Idaho. He's a school teacher from Idaho. He went missing. He went on a day hike. He went missing. They couldn't find him. They looked and looked and looked. And when they found his body, like 3 days later, he was dead. They said there was, they didn't say why he was dead or how he died. But the weird part in the article was that he was in a location you can't get to, and they had to get him off of this cliff ledge with a helicopter.
I'd be curious to know if his skull was caved in, because that's very common in missing 411 cases that they're found with severe head trauma.
There was no mention of that, and it wasn't, and they didn't say there were any signs of like an animal attack either.
Yeah.
So that was just something that was interesting. Growing up so close to Glacier Park, I've been in there my whole life. Every summer you go in there 2-3 times a week. And, it's just a big part of your life when you're that close to a national park like that. And looking back at my time in Montana, basically my whole life, it's once the switch in my head went off, it was just like, oh shit. Like, maybe I have seen these. Maybe I have been around these. There are definitely weird things I've experienced in the woods, deep in the woods, that I can't explain, that were really weird at the time, but I didn't really have any reference point. I hadn't heard all these other encounters, and I wasn't like into that at the time. And like in Montana, Bigfoot's not like a big thing. Like in Oregon, it's definitely part of the culture. A lot of people know somebody that has seen one, interacted with one. They're very open to it. In Montana, it just never comes up. Just people, it's like not as common. There's not as many sightings on the BFRO website. And, I thought I'd give you those insights into where I kind of, why I see what's going on there.
Well, we appreciate it. Hey, thanks for calling up. We got to move on to start winding the showdown here a little bit.
Yeah, sounds good. Blow me up.
Give us an email at ourbigdumbmouth@gmail.com. Check out obdmpod.com for all the social media and donation links. Be a part of the magic.